Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CaRMS webinar to introduce our new electives data. My name's Lisa, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at CaRMS. Before we get started, I'm just going to go over a few logistical items so you can get the most out of the session today. First of all, if you encounter any audio issues or if you prefer to listen over the phone and aren't yet dialed in, you'll find the dial-in number and code in your reminder email, or you can click on the Encountering Issues with Audio or Video link at the top of the window and the right of your screen and select option 3 to see the phone number and code. We're going to be looking at 7 data tables today, and we're going to pause for questions after each table. So if you have a question, please type it in the Questions tab at the right of your screen. Everyone participating in the webinar is going to see those questions, and John will address them verbally during the pause after each walkthrough of each element of the data. We're also going to be sharing a recording of the webinar later this week, and this data will be posted publicly on our website, carms.ca, next week. I am now turning the floor over to John Gallinger, our CEO, so he can walk you through the data.
Thanks very much, Lisa, and welcome all. Delighted to have you for this morning's webinar. Many of you will recall that interest in data relating to electives was asked about at our most recent CaRMS forum in Halifax. Since that time, our data team has been working on this, and we now have the capability to share electives data with you. This is part of our continuing effort to make sure we are bringing informative and helpful data to our clients and stakeholders. This won't be the last. We certainly are excited about sharing this and lots of other interesting information with you. So what we're going to be seeing, as Lisa mentioned, 7 data views with different slants around the elective data relating to match outcomes, ranking, and some more general views of electives data. For each view, and you'll be able to see this on each one of the slides, for each view you'll be able to select all or any one of the number of disciplines that applicants apply to during the R1 match. And what I'll do is I'm walking through it, I'll actually show a selection of disciplines just so you get a bit of a sense of some of the different patterns and trends in the various disciplines. So with that, we'll get underway. And this first slide is a view of CMGs matched based on the number of electives taken in the matched discipline. It's stratified in 3 categories, and the yellow, or amber, I guess you might call it, indicates the number of CMGs who took 3 or more electives in the discipline they matched to. The blue indicates, so I'm just going to see if I can get this thing navigated here. There we go. So the blue indicates the number of CMGs who matched with 1 or 2 electives in the discipline, and the red indicates CMGs matched to the discipline who had not taken an elective in that discipline. So that gives you a bit of a kind of orientation to the slide itself. And you can see here, so for example, in 2018, of the applicants who matched, CMG applicants who matched, 1,394 matched with 3 or more electives in the discipline, 862 with 1 or 2 electives, and 445 without an elective in the discipline. So that's for all disciplines in the R1 match. And now we can just take a peek at some individual disciplines just to give you a sense of what that looks like. So here's family medicine. I won't dwell on them for any great length of time. Here's general surgery. Get my mouse out of the way so it doesn't hide. Here's internal medicine. Obstetrics and gynecology. And finally, pediatrics. Just to give you a sense of some of the patterns that have emerged with this particular view of the data. And I'll just pause just to have a peek and see if anybody has any questions. and not seeing any questions right now, so we'll move on. So now going down to the second view, and this is focused on the applicants who matched to a discipline and whether or not they took an elective in that discipline at the matched school. So again, to orient you, we have two categories, and the pink or mauve, maybe is the better color description, are the CMGs matched without an elective in the discipline at the matched school, and the teal is CMGs matched with an elective in the discipline at the matched school. So again, we can see in 2018, 1,203 CMGs matched without an elective in the discipline at the matched school, while 1,498 matched with an elective in the discipline at the matched school. And now we'll take a peek at those same disciplines as we looked at before, so family medicine, general surgery, internal medicine, obstetrics, gynecology, and pediatrics. So, and of course, you will all be able to, at your leisure, go through these files and explore and compare and discuss amongst your colleagues. You know, what does some of this data mean? You know, this is the very first entry point into this, and I'm sure it'll generate lots of dialogue. So pausing to see if any questions. So we have a question from Carol Ann. And the question is, would it be fair to say that in high demand, low supply disciplines, your data suggests no electives equals few or no matches? That is not a conclusion that I would reach. That is, we haven't examined that at all. So I would not suggest that is a conclusion that we would come to. And Rebecca is asking, are these charts available on the website? Can you please send the link? So Rebecca, thanks for that. On Monday, we expect to be sending the link to this on the website. The files that we sent out to the people that were initially invited to this was in a Tableau format. But the website that you're seeing right now will be available for public viewing as of Monday, and we'll send the links to all the people who attended this webinar as well as those who received the initial invitation. Great questions. Okay, so we're going to move on now to slide 3, and now this is shifting to the ranking perspective. So in this case, I'm going to go and so you can see the definitions and the examples. So this indicates the number of ranks given by Canadian residency programs to CMGs who applied in the first iteration based on the program rank order list. So the yellow indicates the ranks given with an elective in the discipline. So in this case, because of course applicants apply to multiple programs, in many cases receive multiple ranks in multiple programs and often cases in multiple disciplines, you will see much more than the number of applicants reflected in the number of ranks. So in this case, for 2018, you know, the better part of 38,000 ranks in total. So there are lots of duplications of applicants across both disciplines and faculties. So the yellow is the number of program ranks given within the elective in the discipline, and the green are the number of ranks given without an elective in the discipline. So for example, in 2018, 30,317 ranks were given to applicants who had an elective in the discipline, 7,551 given to applicants who did not have an elective in the discipline. And similarly, we'll take a quick run through the same disciplines. There's family medicine, general surgery, So again, you can see some pretty significant compare and contrast amongst the various disciplines, and that's true, for all of these views. I suspect that's where a lot of attention will be paid to, what are the differences, what are the trends, is there anything that folks can connect dots on. Moving down to internal medicine, obstetrics and gynecology. And finally, but only because of the alphabet, pediatrics. Pausing for questions. We have a couple of questions here. So Kaylin is asking, is this data just for the first iteration or both iterations of the match? If both, is it possible to separate the data out? Great question. This is for first iteration only. Abby is asking, does this consider if the students apply to the schools they didn't do electives at? Wouldn't tease that out. Does this consider if the students apply to the schools they didn't do electives at? No, this is about matching or ranking. So it doesn't really indicate application in particular, although if a person doesn't apply to a program, they certainly will not be considered, and they certainly won't be ranked, and certainly wouldn't match. So I guess to that extent there is a bit of a continuum to it. So I think that's the answer to that question. And Abby, if I didn't quite nail the intent of your question, certainly feel free to send us a note, and we'll follow up on it. Now moving on to the second view of ranks, and so this is a bit of a similar sequence as under matching. So now we're looking at the number of ranks given to people based on whether or not an elective was taken in the discipline at the program school. So essentially a rank given at for all intents and purposes, a rank given to those who took an elective at that program. And I think that's a pretty good correlation, although it may not always be the case. I think that would be the definition. So you'll see here the baby blue are the number of program ranks given with an elective in the discipline at the program school, and the pink is the number of program ranks given without an elective in the discipline at the program school. So just a brief, pardon the pun, color commentary. There's a reason why these colors are all different, and some might say, well, why the devil do you have all these different colors? And the reason is that they're all different data. So our data team, wants to make sure that there's no confusion or kind of unintended connection between one set of data and the other. So for that reason, they've chosen certain colors to display the data with this slide, just to help, we hope, avoid some unintended confusion. So, pardon me. So in 2018, again, 26,075 were ranks given without an elective in the discipline of the program school, and 11,793 ranks given across all disciplines with an elective in the discipline of the program school. And we'll walk through that same familiar group of disciplines. Family medicine. Sorry, that didn't do its refresh. So let me try that again. There we go. There's family medicine. General surgery. Of course, the numbers are all very different, but you can get a sense of the proportion comparison at least. Internal medicine. Obstetrics and gynecology. And pediatrics. And again, I'll pause for questions. Elizabeth, is there a report indicating number of weeks in a given discipline relating to matching in that discipline? No, there is not. This is strictly an indicator of an elective taken in a discipline, and that would be, of course, a full elective taken. You can indicate part electives, but this is not about number of weeks. This is about whether you did or didn't take an elective. And Melanie is asking, is it possible to look at number of higher rankings, like top 3, for example? It's possible, but I have to understand exactly, what the question is. So perhaps, Melanie, if you can just give us a really good articulation of what the question is, we'll see what we can do about that in a future view of around electives. And Andy, how does this compare to the applications from students with an elective at that program? Example, plastics is more likely to rank applicants who have completed an elective at that school. Is that only applicants completing an elective at that school apply? Or is it selection practice of the program? Of course, we don't know about the people who don't apply. So it's hard to really make a connection between that behavior of applying, not applying. So this again is focused on matching and ranking outcomes and choices. And I will take a step back, is that the matching view, of course, requires both parties to rank one another. So while the ranking view is really from the program perspective, and this is from the program perspective, and we could very I think easily look at it from the applicant perspective in terms of those ranking choices, but the matching outcome requires both the program rank and the applicant rank. So to the extent that there's influences about whether it's electives or taken at the school, that matching reflects both those perspectives, I would suggest. And then sorry, and Kaylin, I'm just a quick follow-up from her initial question. Is it possible to get second iteration CMG data as well, or is the n value too small? That's a great question, Kaylin. We'll have a look at that, and really appreciate you flagging the question about the numbers of people we would report on. Our practice is anything with 5 or fewer. We simply do not report because it makes it much more. There's a risk of being identifiable, so we steer clear of that. But we'll follow up on the second iteration piece, Kaylin. So thanks for that question. And Sita is asking, is there a trend for high demand, low supply disciplines? We haven't really analyzed that, Sita, whether there's a trend or not a trend, and kind of taking the collection of what we consider high demand disciplines and kind of lining them all up together. But it's a good suggestion, and maybe we might do something like that for a subsequent viewing. Okay, so again, the question's asked about, are the charts available on the website? They're not available on the website yet, but on Monday they will be, and you will all get a link to that. And if you, for whatever reason, you don't get a link, or you're sharing with your colleagues and friends, just let them know that when they go to the CaRMS.ca website and they navigate to the data portion of the website, this electives data will be there. I don't have a precise time on Monday, but Monday end of day would be a safe bet. Okay, moving on to the 5th slide, and now on the 5th slide we're changing the view of this considerably. So now before we were looking at matching outcomes and ranking outcomes. So now we're looking at the total, the number of electives taken by matched Canadian medical graduates, both in the matched discipline and in disciplines outside the matched discipline, and showing that clustering of electives. So in this case, the darker line on the line lower on the graph are the average number of electives in the matched discipline. And again, this is across all disciplines in the R1 match, first iteration. And the lighter colored, or kind of pinkish line, are the average number of electives outside the matched discipline. So interestingly, both trend lines are going up. I would suggest, based on a quick look at this, the trend line of the electives taken outside the matched discipline is going up at a higher rate over the last 6 years compared to the number of electives taken in the matched discipline. So that's one observation, just based on the line. And we'll look at, again, our familiar disciplines, family medicine. And again, it didn't refresh, so we'll take another run at it. So there's family medicine. There's general surgery. There's internal medicine. Obstetrics and gynecology. And pediatrics. And of course, you'll all be able to look at this at your leisure. This just to give you a sense of some of the different disciplines and some of the patterns and trends and compare and contrast that we can see. So, a couple questions. So from Caroline, following on Melanie's question, great idea, but suggestions quotas are so different among programs. Can we look at top 30% of rankings? I think both of those kind of segments of the data would be interesting. So we'll take a look at it, and we'll come up with probably what seems to be the most informative view of that from a ranking perspective. So and this is all can be very iterative, and we'll look at a few things and then see if people are getting the information they are looking for, and if not, then we'll take another run at it. So Celine is asking, can you tell if there are schools that are more prone to choose from students having made an elective at their school or not? This data is not at the school level, so we have not probed that in any fashion. Did you look at the data based on top specialty ranked rather than what was matched? No, not at this time, but it's an interesting thought. So thanks for that. Patrice is asking, number of electives taken equals number in bracket week of electives taken. So I'm looking at Michelle. No, this is a discrete took an elective or did not take an elective. So it's if you took an elective, it's counted as a 1 in that elective. Andy is, how are number of electives defined? I think it's a similar question. Number of electives, the average number of total electives within and outside match disciplines is approximately 11 to 12 for most disciplines in this chart, but it can go up to 15 to 16 for some disciplines. How is that possible? The average number of total electives within and outside. So that will be, so for example, so let's look back at all. So based on the average, that we take 7.9 outside the match discipline, 3.8 within the match discipline, so that would be 11.7 on average electives taken for all applicants. So that's the math there. So Andy, I'm not sure if I'm totally clear on your question. So if you follow up, what we'll do is when we get follow-up questions, we'll actually send out the responses to those questions to the group. I think that's been our practice. I'm getting funny looks, but I'm getting nods, so it's all good. So we'll follow up on those questions. If we can just clarify some of these questions, that probably will be helpful. Gayla, is there a way to determine which specialties are deemed high demand compared across Canada in ranking order? So Gayla, if you go to the CaRMS forum deck from 2018, there are a couple of slides in there that talk about supply and demand, and actually list the disciplines that are considered high demand, which means that there are more Canadian medical graduates indicating that discipline as their first choice than there are numbers of positions available. So that's the definition of high demand. So if you go to our CaRMS forum deck, and I couldn't tell you what slide number it is, but it's in there, it'll give you a full list of those considered to be high demand. And Stephanie, don't all CMGs engage in 8 2-week electives, primarily over 16 weeks? Yeah, that's I can't give you a definitive answer as to whether or not that's the case. Maybe somebody else can. But what we're reporting here are, and I should have mentioned this right at the top, This is electives as captured in the Canadian Medical Graduates applications. And as anybody who is familiar with the application process, applicants are expected to be complete and accurate with their application. So we are certainly expecting that this data is an accurate reflection of people's actual elective experience. However, there may be instances where people don't capture all of every elective. That's possible, but this is certainly the captured based on applicant recorded elective experience. Sorry, there is a max character count. Yes, sum for all disciplines is 11. Now, if you look at plastics, the sum is 16 electives. Do matched CMGs in this discipline have access to more electives? I couldn't speak to the access question, Andy. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on whether or not there's an access issue or more or less in any particular discipline. We're simply reporting the numbers, but others may be able to answer that question, Andy. Okay, so Sita is actually responding to Stephanie. To Stephanie, the number of weeks for electives varies from school to school. Some 16 weeks, some even 24 weeks. So thanks for that, Sita. That's very helpful. And Stephanie, thanks, Sita. So this is my being a novice to some of this. I see people are actually talking to each other, which is awesome. Terrific. Okay, let's move to the next slide, which is slide number 6 in our series. And this is a view of the number of disciplines now. The number of disciplines in which CMGs have taken electives outside of their matched discipline. Now, keeping in mind that there are some CMGs who actually match to a discipline without taking an elective in the discipline, you can't automatically assume that it's this number plus 1. Just to give you that context. And as you can see here, so this is a single line, so fairly easy to navigate. And you can see it went from 4.8 to 5.4, so a pretty steady increasing trend with on the same number 2016 and 2017, and then up slightly again in 2018. So this has been about a 2% increase per year if you do the easy math on it. And looking at, this is all disciplines now, and now looking at family medicine, similar increase really over time. General surgery, perhaps a bit steeper trend line in general surgery. Internal medicine, similar to the average. Obstetric gynecology, actually quite flat, with a bit of a dip in 2017, so flat over the 6 years. And then finally, pediatrics, with again a bit of a steeper incline, particularly in the last couple of years. Okay, question from Rachel. Do you compare this data from matched students to the elective data for unmatched students? We have not done that, Rachel, although I think that is a very interesting a set of data for comparative purposes that we'll consider looking at. I will, and I'll always be reminded by the people who counseled me early on in my days here at CaRMS is that the matched and unmatched often can you end up with the same underlying pattern. So sometimes it'll inform, sometimes it doesn't inform, but at a minimum we will look at it and share that data in the coming months. And finally, again with the discipline view, and now we're focused on the number of disciplines in which Canadian medical graduates have taken electives. So what we're looking at here is a frequency distribution, and rather than it being a drop down up here for discipline, this is for all, as you can imagine, this is across the board, all CMGs in the R1 match. So this is looking at it by year. So what I'll do is actually I'll just quickly run through the 6 years, just so you can get a sense of the change over time. Then I'll have a couple of comments on that change. So there's 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018. So if your eyes, kind of just focused on the patterns, what I would highlight here is just a change in a few of the categories in general. You'll see that there is a shift to the right, which is what you would expect, given that the trend overall has been upwards, as we saw from the line graph in the chart earlier. But just notably here, between 2013 and 2018, the number of matched Canadian medical graduates who took electives in two disciplines only, has declined by 52%. So that number is down by half. The numbers taking electives in 3 and 4 disciplines has declined by 24 and 27% respectively. Conversely, the number of matched CMGs taking electives in 5 or more disciplines has increased 31% from 2013 to 2018. And as you might expect, the mode has shifted to the right. In 2013 and 2014, it was 4. And in the last 4 years, it's been 5. So a general shift to the right, again, is indicated by the trend line. But in every year, there's this sort of long tail of quite a number of disciplines being taken by a relatively small number of people. So now I'll pause again for questions. Are these exclusively pre-CaRMS electives listed on their application? In other words, so this is going into the R1 match, so the answer to that is yes. How is there a substantial portion of applicants with electives in more than 15 disciplines? That's what's reported. So I guess somebody is very, very diverse in the electives that they have taken. So I think that's a great question, Andy. But this is the reported data from the applications. How are the disciplines defined by CaRMS? For example, is each subspecialty or IM considered a separate elective discipline? So it's I'm looking to my data colleague. It's based on the categories that the people have in the drop-down choices in the elective part of the application. So that's how that's essentially it's where the elective is captured within the elective portion of the application. Does this data include couples match? Yes it does. Carol Ann, thanks for that question. Elizabeth, sorry, I answered that question. So sorry if I missed this, but is this based on the self-reported electives of students? I'm thinking pre-clerkship and post-CaRMS electives will be included. If it's based on the R1 application, so whatever was included in their application, and again, the applicant contract says, you are expected to include in your application complete and accurate information. So this is self-reported, but it's based on that expectation that not unlike when people are asked, what is their education experience, and there is a portion for medical education and a portion for non-medical education, and people are expected to be complete and accurate about that kind of data as well. Abby, will we be able to work with the raw de-identified data in Tableau? No. This will be aggregate data, and it will be and so the Tableau file that people have now was shared with those who are kind of in this early release and invited to the webinar. The Tableau file, that is not how the data will be shared in future. It'll be through the CaRMS.ca website, for future planning. Alexander, does this data include a mix of both first-time applicants and previous graduates? Yes, it does. If so, that could explain some of the high numbers of electives and variety, but also muddy the waters for first-time applicants. Alexander, brilliant. Thank you very much for clarifying that particular element, which certainly would explain some of the long tail on this. So that's terrific. And I'll just pause for a moment just to see if any more questions come in. So not seeing any. So in terms of what you can expect, you will be receiving a link to the video of the presentation, as well as a link to where you'll see the data on the CaRMS.ca website. You'll also see, for the folks who are in this sort of limited edition, you will receive a slightly fine-tuned Tableau file along with the video and the link to the CaRMS.ca. So you can have it at your desktop or whatever it might be, which might be helpful to you. But keeping in mind that as the years unfold, that data will start to become stale because it'll be added to with 2019 and 2020 and so on. But at least it'll be there for you for the coming period. As always, we are here to answer your questions. If we haven't been able to answer your question satisfactorily, send us a note. There's I'm not sure, Lisa, if there's a link. Sorry. There's a let us know email account. So send it to let us know, and with whatever your question is, and then we'll be delighted to respond to that. And for any of you who know me, if you send me an email, it'll find the right place as well. But you'll get faster service through Let Us Know, because that goes right to the folks who have the answers. Again, as always, here to answer your questions, issues or concerns you might have. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us for this. I hope it's been helpful, informative. Take care and have a terrific day.